If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Detail, present arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Detail, port arms.
All right, good morning, and I am so impressed. This event keeps growing each and every year. A huge thanks to all of our supporters and participants. More to come on that as the program goes, but I heard we had to add at least one extra table today. So again, thank you so much. My name is Mike Jacobs. I'm the Career and Activities Coordinator here at Northwest State, and I want to thank you again for joining us on this very special day. My father and grandfather were Navy veterans, and my son served 5 years in the United States Army. It's a great honor to be here before all of you and all of our veterans, and we're humbled by your service. Thank you. So why do we even celebrate Veterans Day? Veterans Day is set aside to thank and honor all who have served, living and deceased, but particularly the living among us here today. Veterans fought for our freedoms and risked their lives whether or not we realized it or appreciated it. Without the service of veterans, we would not have the freedoms that we have today. I'd like to introduce Dr. Todd Hernandez, president of Northwest State Community College. Todd is a native of Northwest Ohio and a 1989 graduate of Napoleon High School. He holds a doctorate of information technology from Walden University and currently serves as the 8th president of Northwest State Community College. He joined the Northwest State team in 2010 and has served as a training coordinator, chief information officer, vice president for innovation, and executive vice president. He also served as a nuclear-trained surface warfare officer in the United States Navy for 8 years, from 1991 to 1999. After completing Officer Candidate School and the Nuclear Power Training Program, Todd was assigned to the USS South Carolina, out of Norfolk, Virginia, as part of the George Washington Battle Group. He was later assigned to the Nuclear Power Training Unit in Charleston, South Carolina, as a shift engineer and the Chemical and Radiological Controls Assistant. Among other service medals, Todd was awarded 2 Navy Commendation Medals, a Navy Achievement Medal, and the Armed Forces Expeditionary Service Medal. Dr. Hernandez has a strong commitment to helping people and strengthening community and feels very grateful to be here at Northwest State. Please help me welcome Todd Hernandez.
Thanks, Mike. That bio was longer than my welcome address is going to be, but that's okay. Before we get started, I'd ask that all of our veterans stand so that you could be recognized. Thank you. So this is my 4th year as president at Northwest State, and as we were kind of just gathering and talking, a few of you mentioned that this used to be a small event, a small gathering, and we used to, as a college, we would honor Veterans Day by having a small little luncheon for our staff and students that were veterans. And in typical fashion, as a brand new president, I had to do things differently. So I said, what if we made this event a community event? We're a community college after all. So this is our 4th year having this, expanded event, and it's easy for me to say, instead of having an internal veterans lunch and small luncheon, let's do a community event. And then there's hundreds of hours that goes into this between the invitations and the programs. So I want to take a second to say thank you to our food services, facilities, IT, foundation, everything that it takes to put on a wonderful event like this. It's a lot of work, but I will say that you are all worth it, and we're happy to host you here today. So thank you.
And to continue Todd's thanks, hopefully all of you who are veterans checked in and registered today. We've got an envelope that's got a nice little gift. It's a star that's actually, I have one in my pocket. Why don't I just do this? So it's a star that's actually been kind of recycled, upcycled from American flags that are turned in that can't fly anymore. So they cut the stars out. So each of you have been given one of these. It's a really nice symbol. So again, thank you. Thank you so much. Up on the stage, we have a couple of honorary displays that I'd like to explain. And the first one is actually our POW chair. This chair of honor is a simple yet extremely powerful reminder of those who've served in the military but have not yet returned home, totaling more than 82,000 U.S. service personnel since World War II. This empty chair will serve as an instant reminder of all of the sacrifices made for our country by those still missing. And the second honorary display you may have seen before, and if you haven't, it's a really interesting story. The POW MIA table setting. This small table is set for one, representing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her suppressors. The table is round, showing our everlasting concern for our POW and MIAs. The cloth is white, symbolizing the purity of the intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. The single red rose signifies the blood they may have shed in sacrifice to ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. This rose, reminding us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep the faith while awaiting their return. The yellow ribbon stands for the yellow ribbons worn on the lapels of the thousands who demand with unyielding determination a proper accounting for our comrades who are not among us today. A slice of lemon reminds us of the bitter fate of those missing, captured, and held as prisoners in foreign lands. A pinch of salt denotes the tears of our missing and their families who long for answers after decades of uncertainty. The Bible represents strength gained through faith in our country, founded as one nation under God, to sustain those lost from our midst. The lighted candle reflects the light of hope which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors, to the open arms of a grateful nation. The glass is inverted, symbolizing their inability to share with us today. Let us remember and never forget their sacrifices, and please join me in honoring them with a moment of silence. Thank you. And I'd like to bring up John Wilson with our invocation today. John has spent 6 years in the National Guard, rising to first lieutenant from 1957 to 1963. He has also served in various capacities right here at Northwest State Community College over the last 50 years and now serves on the Northwest State Community College Foundation Board. John?
Thank you, Mike, for that explanation of the table. I've heard it a number of times since I usually give the prayer. I want you to look at this card that you have been given. I challenge you to take it home as it says, please take a soldier home, and place it somewhere that will remind you to pray for the soldiers serving our country. Let's bow. Father, you're a great God. So many blessings have been shared upon each of us here because someone served. Thank you for that. Now, would you bless our gathering here together today as we honor those who are not here for whatever the reason. Bless the food to our bodies to your service, and the results are yours. And for that, we give you praise, honor, and glory. Amen.
All right. Lunch is on deck, but before I start releasing our tables, I'd like to bring up today's entertainment. Carrie Patrick Clark is a singer, songwriter, storyteller, and entertainer. And those who are lucky enough to catch him in concert leave a different person. Carrie is a blend of the practical and visionary, and a mixture of genres and time periods, including pop, folk, country, Americana, and singer-songwriter. Please help me welcome Carrie Patrick Clark.
I know many of you are finished with lunch. Some of you are still eating. We want you to continue, but before we do that, we're moving into the program portion. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the singing of our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Join me in a song, oh beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of gray, for purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He's trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the faithful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Let's sing together, shall we? Lord. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. One more. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. Give yourselves a hand, you sound good. Let's do one more song together. This is the anthem for American folk music, and in response to a song that we're going to sing in a little bit, a song written by Irving Berlin, the father of American folk music, a man by the name of Woody Guthrie, penned this song for the small communities that he traveled through, small, powerful, good, hard-working communities with good men and good women, places like Wauseon, Ohio, and Archibald, and Defiance, and wherever you're from. Let's pretend we just said your city's name, your town's name. 'Cause we could be here all afternoon. But Woody Guthrie wrote this song. This land is your land. This land is from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. Hey, this land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond desert, and all around me a voice was calling. This land was made for you and me. At last count, there have been 500 or more verses written for this song. We're going to sing one more time. In fact, we're going to sing so well that Mike is going to make his way back up to the podium. You ready? This land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. Big finish. Hey, this land was made for you and me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carrie. All right. Well, before I bring up our keynote speaker, I feel like we do this every year, and this young man has been the name that I think I've announced for probably the last 4 years. But I would like to recognize, you're all very special, but I want to recognize one very special 98-year-old Navy veteran, Walter Guthrie. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you for joining us again this year. Thank you so much. Walter was a World War II veteran? Yes. Oh, I know how he got here. I didn't want to embarrass him. How did you get here today? Yeah, he drove, of course. Why wouldn't he drive? He didn't take a boat, even though he was in the Navy. So, but thank you again, Walter. Thank you so much. All right. To get started with our keynote presentation today, I'd like to bring up Chief Master Sergeant Michael E. Haas, retired. Retired Command Chief Master Sergeant Michael Haas enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1981. After completing basic training, he trained for 2 years to become a cryptologic linguist for the Russian language, attending various schools and courses at 3 different Air Force bases. Chief Haas served on active duty Air Force from 1981 to 1990. While on active duty, he flew a combined total of 198 missions, accumulating 2,144 flight hours. Chief Haas then served full-time in various positions in the Ohio Air National Guard's 180th Fighter Wing from 1990 until his retirement in December of 2011. He retired as the Wing's Command Chief Master Sergeant. During this time, he's received many awards and medals, which are listed in your program. Chief Haas is retired and resides in Wauseon with his wife, Sherry. They have 2 children, Jeremiah and Joshua, and 1 grandson. Please help me welcome Chief Haas.
Ну, добрый день. Для нас сегодня большая честь быть здесь. Спасибо. Got it. Sorry, that Russian speaks out once in a while, so appreciate you being here. Sorry, let me rephrase that for you. I was speaking Russian in case you couldn't figure that out. What I meant to say was good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here today, and I am honored to be here today. First, let me start by saying thank you to Northwest State Community College for not only inviting me to speak, but also for the amazing meal, and that was an amazing meal, and also for the program they have put on to honor our nation's veterans. Last year, my cousin Kevin Gherkin, who works out here at the Northwest State Community College, took my wife Sherry and I for a tour of the campus, and we were truly impressed in what a facility this is, and the programs and stuff they have to offer is absolutely amazing. So if you ever get a chance to get a tour, I'm sure they'd like to show you around. It is an amazing campus. And I'd like to give a shout out to my fellow veterans. There's quite a few of them here today. I was surprised when everybody stood up. It was probably 80% of you veterans out there. I know it's sometimes hard for us veterans to accept the thanks we get from the folks out in the civilian world there, as it can make us a bit uncomfortable. But at this time, I want to add to that bit of discomfort and say thank you for your service. You answered the call to defend this country's freedoms and to protect its citizens. And I also want to recognize those veterans that didn't make it home, whether they died in the line of duty or POWs or MIAs. They truly made the ultimate sacrifice, and we truly can't forget them as well on this Veterans Day. And thank you to Northwest State Community College for remembering these folks with the honored setting of the POW MIA table. I love it every time I see that. And there's one special veteran that I want to recognize today, and that is my wife, Sherry. Sherry retired from the United States Air Force and the Air National Guard as an E-7 Master Sergeant with 27 years of service. And without her support and sacrifice, I would not have been able to achieve my goal of attaining the rank of Chief Master Sergeant, and also being assigned as the Command Chief at the 180th Fighter Wing. I told her I wouldn't embarrass her today, but I'll deal with that later. Sherry, would you stand up, please? Trust me, I will pay for that. I joined the United States Air Force in 1981 after graduating from high school. My first career field, or as we call it in the Air Force, AFSC, Air Force Specialty Code, was as a cryptologic linguist. And how did I get this job? Well, that in itself is a story. I joined not knowing what I wanted to do. I went in with my eyes wide open. Apparently, I scored high enough on the ASVAB test, the Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Battery test, to take the Air Force or the government DLAB test, which is a Defense Language Aptitude Battery test, hence the introduction to all the different various acronyms and stuff that we get to use in the military world. So apparently, I took the test, so apparently I scored high enough on that to that said I could learn a foreign language. And I said, you're kidding. I said, I've never studied a foreign language in my life. I took basic courses through high school. I was going to work. So I said, you know what, why not? I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was shocked, but I took the test and I passed it, which was even more of a shock. And they said, you're eligible to be a cryptologic linguist. And I asked the career counselor if he's sure he had the right name on the paper, because it didn't make any sense that I would pass that. And he assured me he did, and I said, okay, let's do it. So in May of 1981, I took off on my adventure. After basic training, I went through a short English refresher course, during which time I was given aptitude tests on various languages to see how well we did in each language. One of the languages was Vietnamese, which I scored the highest on, and the other was Russian, which I scored the lowest on. And the other ones I don't remember, only the top and the bottom. So I put in for training for a Vietnamese linguist, as I figured, well, if I scored the highest, it must be a little easier for me to learn. Well, it didn't quite work out that way. See, I was becoming a cryptologic linguist during the height of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. And guess what language I was selected for? Yep, Russian. Even though I scored the lowest in that language on the aptitude test, and it was really an eye-opening experience where it said, welcome to the military. It's not about what you want, it's about what we want. So my training to become a cryptologic linguist in the Russian language was at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. The training was long and very challenging. We studied the Russian language Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day for 47 weeks. The failure rate in our class was 30%, and to be honest with you, I was almost part of that 30%. The stress during that course was amazing. I went from school till 8 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, and I stayed for remedial training, mandatory remedial training, for an hour afterwards. And then I went back to the barracks, shut my books for a little while for about an hour, went out, ate chow, came back, and studied that night for another 2 to 3 hours. And I did that for 47 weeks. It was tough, but I passed and was selected to give the class speech in Russian at our graduation ceremony. However, my challenge at that point was not over. I was not done being trained to be a cryptologic linguist. It was during these 47 weeks that our class was approached to see if any of us wanted to be airborne linguists, assigned to an airborne unit versus a ground unit. Well, I was in the Air Force. I said, sure, why not? Let's go fly. I volunteered, took my flight physical, and I passed it. And I was selected for flight status. I was going to be a Russian cryptologic linguist on board the RC-135 Rivet Joint Reconnaissance Aircraft. So after graduating from Russian language school, I had an additional 4 months of ground radio operations, and because I was going airborne, I had an additional 3 months of airborne radio operations. And that's where we learned to operate all the communication equipment that we were going to use either on the ground or in the aircraft, and we also learned about Soviet naval, air, and ground tactics and how they operated. I had 1 month of survival training following that at Fairchild Air Force Base in Spokane, Washington, which included water survival, land survival, POW training, and also a classified resistance training for those of us that were going to fly on the RC-135 reconnaissance aircraft. Finally, in 1983, after 2 years after I joined the Air Force and 2 years of schooling, I made it to my first duty station, RAF Mildenhall, England. And that was an amazing assignment. My wife will attest to that. It was absolutely amazing. There I flew on the RC-135 Rivet Joint Reconnaissance Aircraft. We were doing classified strategic reconnaissance missions against the Soviet Union during the height of the Cold War. The missions from wheels up to wheels down were anywhere from 8 to 14 hours long, not including our pre- and post-mission briefings. The longest mission that I ever did, wheels up to wheels down, was 20 hours long. That's a long time on an airplane. That's a long time on those stinky old airplanes. We were on the front lines during the Cold War, and I tell you what, when you got back from a flight, you knew it. That flight suit got hung outside because it was just that nasty after being in an airplane that long. We were on the front lines during the Cold War, and while I was there, I was assigned to be part of a new analysis program regarding the Soviet Navy. We were building a new program that was high priority within the intelligence community. And within that program, I was assigned the Senior Naval Analyst for Soviet Naval Operations. My specialty was analyzing tactics and movements of the Soviet Navy. I was responsible for developing the unit's Soviet naval program from scratch. We were providing real-time and analytical information to the National Security Agency in Fort Meade, Maryland. The analyzed information would be forwarded to the highest levels of U.S. and Allied military commands. They would use this information to determine their operations in response to the operations of the Soviet Navy. So never in my wildest dreams would I ever have thought, just going into the military, that I would ever be flying classified strategic reconnaissance missions against the Soviet Union, providing real-time classified intelligence on our main adversary at that time, which was the Soviet Union. Many interesting things occurred during those flights, some of which I still can't talk about today because they still are classified. However, on a routine basis, the Soviets would send up their fighters to intercept us as we were flying along. They would send up MiG-29s, 23s, and 31s, and Su-24s and 27s, and they would all come up to have a look at us during our flight. Of course, we knew they were coming, and we knew what aircraft were coming. After all, we were a reconnaissance intelligence aircraft. They would come up and have a look at us during our flight. And sometimes when they were flying beside us, they would be flying and they would flip their bellies towards us so we could see all the missiles that they were have on their aircraft, trying to intimidate us, right? It was really funny. So they were so close, basically, that we could see the inside of their cockpit. You could see their eyeballs. I mean, they were that close. And we would give the international peace sign, and we would exchange other visual pleasantries along the way. It was a cat and mouse game. It was a lot of fun. It really was. Although you did get some hot dog pilots up there that would really try to find one mistake you made just so they could put a marking on their aircraft, you know. And I remember one mission specifically. The Brits and the Germans, they had their own reconnaissance aircraft. The Brits had the Nimrod and the Germans had the Atlantic. And we flew a coordinated mission with them along with our aircraft, the RC-135 Rivet Joint, which I was on, and our sister aircraft, the RC-135 Combat Cent, and the SR-71 Blackbird. We flew into the area of operation. The Atlantic and the Nimrod flew close together to form a single blip on the radar screen. The two RC-135 aircraft flew together as well to form a separate blip, one blip on the radar screen. Then like lightning, the SR-71 came screaming into the area at Mach 3+, and the minute he hit the area, the Nimrod and the Atlantic split, went different directions and different altitudes. The two RC-135 split and went different altitudes, And I'll tell you what, man, the radars just lit up like crazy. They had no idea what was going on. We caught them with their pants down, man. The radars lit up. They didn't know who to. They were sending aircraft everywhere to figure out who was who and where was where. And it was just funny to watch this whole thing unfold. So they also sent a MiG-25 Foxbat up, which is what they always used to intercept the SR-71 with. Well, that was the fastest aircraft they had, but it was not fast enough to catch the SR. So by the time the Foxbat got off the ground, got up to see the SR-71. The SR-71 had completed its mission, was already halfway home, and probably getting ready to figure out what he was going to order for lunch. So they never did catch us. So it was amazing. That kind of stuff happens, and it's so much fun. It just made those 8 14-hour missions just something to just enjoy at that point. In 1989, Sherry and I decided to leave England. We were assigned to Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha, Nebraska. She was assigned to the personnel section on base, and I went to the 6949th Electronic Security Squadron, where I flew on both the RC-135 Rivet Joint and the RC-135 Combat Sent aircraft, as well as performing area specialist duties on the E-3 Sentry AWACS during green flag exercises out at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, Nevada. That was a tough assignment. I was a lead single-channel Russian linguist there, performing training and evaluations on both the ground and in the air. I must say, during my time as an airborne cryptological linguist, I flew 198 missions for a combined total of 2,144 hours on all 3 aircraft, and I loved every minute of it. In 1990, the Cold War was coming to an end, and the fall of the Soviet Union was imminent. They were cutting back on Russian linguists, and I was not going to cross-train into another language, not in your life. Once was enough for me. I did it when I was single. It was hard enough. Now I was married and had 2 kids. There was no way that was going to happen. So Sherry and I made the decision that we were going to leave the military world. When I learned about transferring into the 180th Fighter Wing from active duty. So Sherry and I were home on leave from Offutt one time, and we went out there and we checked it out. And we said, yep, this is good. We can do this. So we both transferred into the 180th Fighter Wing, and if you don't know much about it, they currently fly F-16 Fighting Falcon aircraft. When we got there, it was A-7s, and about a year or 2 after we got there, they upgraded to the F-16, and they do homeland security and also deploy in real-world contingencies as well. So during my enlistment to the 180th, I changed career fields 5 times. I started as a personnel specialist in the 180th Civil Engineering Squadron's orderly room as a traditional guardsman, doing my weekend duty once a month and then my annual training, and then went full-time in other various career fields to include administration, intelligence, operations resource management, and airfield flight services manager. In 1999, I deployed with the 180th to Incirlik Air Base, Turkey, in support of Operation Northern Watch, where the unit flew missions over northern Iraq to enforce a no-fly zone over northern Iraq. And in July of 2001, I was deployed to Al-Jabar Air Base in Kuwait in support of Operation Southern Watch, where the unit flew missions over southern Iraq to enforce the southern no-fly zone. And one specific thing I remember about the Kuwait deployment was when we landed at the airport, we had about a 15-minute bus ride to get to the base, and all the windows in the bus were blacked out except the front window. I was sitting towards the front so I could see out the front windscreen. And there were cars that were running interception for us. They made sure that all the on-ramps, the off-ramps were all blocked. People weren't getting in our way, slowing us down or anything. They were actually running people off the road to make sure the bus did not slow down or stop anywhere along the way to the air base. And it was kind of at that point, I'm like, okay, this is real. Okay, and I'm sure a lot of you had that in your careers too, where you realize that where the position you're in, it's real. A couple months later, the infamous day of September 11th, 2001 occurred. I remember that day very well, as I'm sure probably everyone in this room does. I was at the 180th in my office and heard someone say that a plane had flown into one of the World Trade Center towers. I went to the break room across the Coster Hall from my office and was watching it on TV when, I'm sure some of you remember, saw the second one hit live before they even announced that you could see it as it was being broadcast live on TV. So the second one hit the other tower. Right away, I knew something was up, and as airfield manager at the time, I went to the operations counter where all the flying activity is coordinated. We had 2 jets with engines running, ready to take off on a training mission. The supervisor of flying had them shut down and come back into the operations area to delay their takeoff. They had ammo on board, but there were no missiles, as we did not carry live missiles at the 180th at the time. The KC-135 tanker unit out of Rickenbacker Air National Guard Base in Columbus contacted us and said that if we get aircraft airborne, they would as well to refuel us as necessary. The confusion of that day was unbelievable. The coordination between the FAA and the military was strained, to say the least. Finally, we did put 2 aircraft in the air to fly cover around the area, and the Rickenbacker unit put a tanker up as well to refuel us if needed. And within 24 hours, we were tasked to have aircraft sit in readiness status and respond at a moment's notice. It was very surreal. And we had live missiles transferred to our base from Selfridge Air National Guard Base in Michigan. And runway 1634 out Toledo Express, which is the north-south runway, became our staging area. Since I was the airfield manager, it was my responsibility to ensure the aircraft, the tents, the vehicles, any movement out there, everything was properly staged, the movement was safe. And the temporary markings were had to be basically according to what the regulations stated. There were no other aircraft inbound or outbound from Toledo or basically anywhere else in the United States at that point. And that was really an eerie feeling. It was like being deployed, only this was happening in the United States, and it changed everything for us. In 2004, in addition to my airfield management duties, I was selected as the operations group superintendent, overseeing the enlisted force within the operations group. The final position I had was one that I never dreamed I would have been assigned to. In 2009, I was selected as a 180th Fighter Wings Command Chief. And this is held by the Wing's most senior enlisted member. My duties as the Wings Command Chief were very wide in scope. In a nutshell, I made sure the Wings enlisted force, consisting of over 900 airmen, were doing what the commander was directing us to do. I was responsible for ensuring unit personnel were trained, equipped, and ready to deploy anywhere in the world to support local, state, and federal missions. If there were any issues regarding the unit's ability to deploy and complete its mission, I was to notify the wing commander of this issue, work with senior enlisted members within that unit to get those issues resolved and make sure that they were deployable. I retired from the military on the 31st of December 2011 with just over 30 years of military service. That'd be 30 years, 7 months, and 27 days to be exact. One extremely sad thing happened during my time at the 180th when Sherry and I lost a good friend in Iraq. On 15 June 2007, we lost our friend, Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Sonnenberg. Kevin is a Northwest State Community College graduate. He graduated in 1988 in construction technology and was also awarded the Northwest State Community College Distinguished Alumni Award posthumously in 2012. His picture's on the wall out there if you look at all the pictures on the bottom left down there. I was the operations group superintendent at the time of his death, and Sherry and I were both home getting ready for our weekend. The wing commander called me and said that I needed to report as soon as possible to the base in uniform. I put my uniform back on, and with Sherry being in the military, knew I would need some snacks and a to-go kit, and she got that stuff together while I got my uniform back on. She knew I was in for a long night, and when I got there, he stated that we had lost a jet and a pilot, and that pilot was Kevin Sonnenberg, call sign Sonny. It was devastating and made for a long night. Excuse me. Coordinating with the command in Iraq and working to get the family notified. Live Sonny. My time now is spent watching our 2.5-year-old grandson 4 days a week. That kid's got more energy in his thumb than I do in my entire body. Man, oh man, I tell you what, between Sherry and I, we tag team in, and by the Thursday when we're done watching him, we are just completely gone. I am also the adjutant at the Ridgeville Legion post down the road from here, and our Legion has been blessed to help many veterans and local organizations in the area. This includes working with the Maumee Valley Guidance Center and the Defiance and the Orphan Grain Train out of Napoleon. We've done everything from picking up and delivering household furniture and other goods to a veteran and his family who have hit hard times, to donating handmade baskets made by the wives of one of our members to our veterans who are both housebound and in nursing homes. I also have my own bicycle shop donation charity called Windy Wheels. I take old bicycles that folks donate either to me or the Orphan Grain Train in Napoleon, fix them up, and donate them to folks in need. I have done donations to the Orphan Grain Train and have also given some to the Maumee Valley Guidance Center, who in turn give them to local veterans who use these bikes sometimes as their primary mode of transportation. These are veterans who are trying to get off the streets or have hit hard times and are in need of assistance. There's a bunch of stories behind those too, but I don't have time. Those are very interesting stories to see these veterans get back on their feet and try to recoup from what life has kind of given them at the time. While this is my story, I know that each one of you veterans has your own stories as well. Every one of you veterans, regardless of how much time you served, where you served, or the position you served in were critical to the security, safety, and the continued freedoms of this country. For that, you should all be proud of your service. And I want to recognize the family members of veterans as well. When a member serves, their family members serve as well. They too make sacrifices, and they need to be recognized for that as well. So to you family members, thank you for your sacrifices as well. In closing, I again want to thank Northwest State Community College for this great program, awesome meal, and for allowing me to speak here today and tell my story. But I have one more thing, and this is very important. How many of you out there think that the branch of the service that you served in was the best? There you go. All right, that's good. Okay, I have the answer to that question, believe it or not. Okay, so I'm going to tell you which one. Ready? You see, there was a soldier, a sailor, an airman, a Marine, a Coast Guardsman, and a Guardian. That's our new Space Force, what we call our new Space Force personnel, Guardians. Got into an argument about which branch of the service was best. The arguing became so heated that the 6 service members failed to see an oncoming truck as they crossed the road. They were hit by the truck and killed instantly. Soon the 6 service members found themselves at the pearly gates of heaven. There they met St. Peter and decided that only he could be the ultimate source of truth and honesty. So the 6 service members asked St. Peter, which branch of the United States Armed Forces is the best? And St. Peter replied, I can't answer that. However, I know God can answer that question for you. All of a sudden, a sparkling white dove lands on St. Peter's shoulder. In the dove's beak is a note glistening with gold dust. St. Peter opens the note, and the trumpets blare, and the gold dust drifts into the air, and the harps are playing big crescendos on their harps and everything like that. And St. Peter begins to read the note aloud to the 6 service members. And it reads, and I quote, Memorandum from the desk of the Almighty. To all former soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, and Guardians. Subject, which branch of the military is best? And I know a lot of you that read military messages can follow along with this, right? Paragraph 1, all branches of the United States Armed Forces are honorable and noble. Paragraph 2, each serves America well and with distinction. Paragraph 3, serving in the United States military represents a great honor, warranting special respect, tribute, and dedication from your fellow man. And paragraph 4, always be proud of that. It is signed, warm regards, God, United States Air Force, retired. There's your answer. Thank you.
You guys all figured out the punchline before he even got there, right? Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate you sharing your story and your experience. And it really is just a testament to how each and every one of you in your individual way contributed. So again, thank you. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. And I think we've got Kerry back up here. He's going to sing us out. Is that the right way to put that?
Well, we're all going to sing out, but on behalf of those of us that are in the entertainment industry, in a place in the world that I believe it's the only place that you can do that, I just want to say thank you for your service. Command Sergeant Michael Haas, spasibo большое. Yeah, хорошо. Veterans, thank you very much. Let's stand and join in one more song. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from the mountain to the prairie to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet